If you want to grow your business in record time the easy way, but you're not really sure why that's not naturally happening, then you've landed on the right video, because today I'm going to be telling you the 5 hidden business killers that I see time and time again, and I'm going to show you step by step how to actually fix these. Plus, if you stick around till the end of the video, there'll even be a free little bonus that you can grab onto and utilize this and fix all of these in record time so that you can start earning more and growing your business. So let's get into it. The first mistake I often see, or I should say obstacle, is that many business owners do not know who they're selling to. The best way to think about this is who needs your stuff. And by that, you'll realize most business owners kind of fall into a trap. Let me talk about this more and actually outline why this matters. Because more often than not, what happens is a business will basically start, let's say you have a product or service, it doesn't really matter, but this is your ideal customer and everybody's really trying to go after this person because frankly, they can just buy your thing. That's the metric that most business owners put forward, is that if they can buy it, I want to get them to buy it. The problem is when you're working with anybody, I've seen this with startup founders, I've seen this with freelancers, solo entrepreneurs, really anybody who has a product or service falls into this death trap. You're kind of just working with anybody who has a pulse, but if you pre-qualify them, let's say that I just said, okay, I only work with small businesses. Well, that's everybody from Jane, who has a candle shop out of her garage, to the local CPA who's pulling in maybe $500,000 a year. Both of those are considered small businesses in your mind. You want to get more specific, because at the end of the day, if you can pre-qualify out of this group of people who you want to buy your stuff, you'll probably realize that this person can't afford your thing. This person, while they do need your thing, they just ultimately might want to buy a smaller version. They're just too price competitive. But this person right here can not only afford it, but they really need it. I would even so far as to say that most people who sell services especially fall in this category, that this person does not need anything that you offer, and you're just wasting your time trying to acquire them. It's a harsh truth, but what you're trying to do is to move the odds in your favor. So here's how you can fix this. What you want to break it down into is to find your particular defined customer. Now, what I like to do is give them a name, because I think that helps humanize them. And then you can pick out any attributes that would help pre-qualify or basically allow you to push a closer, more value, easier interactions. You don't have to sell as hard. Your marketing goes further. So you need to think about things like age, gender. We could say what's their pain or problems that they have. What are their hobbies? Is this location based? So if you start to just keep picking more and more attributes just down the line, you can keep going, and you had to think about who the most ideal person to buy your thing is. Just pick at least 3 attributes, and that is a fantastic starting point. Now, what I like to do is leverage Alex Hormozi's example of this, which is really good. You can use 4 qualifiers, which is pain, afford, they can afford your stuff, and they should be in a growing segment, and they should be easy to target. If you use these 4 attributes, you can define a pretty killer niche. They should have some form of intrinsic pain that they're going through right now in their lives. They should be able to afford your stuff. It seems pretty, obvious at face value, but you'd be surprised how many people are going after things or customers that can't actually afford their product or service. It should be in a growing market segment. Don't target, at the time of recording this video, don't target newspaper companies, don't target landline companies. Target something that's on the uptick. If you really must, you can target something that's flatlining, but growing is always best. And they should be somewhat easy to target, which is where these attributes come into play. You're trying to take all of these, and eventually when you start to do more marketing, when you start to talk more about your stuff, you'll understand exactly the language they use, what they want to hear, what those attributes are, just by having done the preliminary research. So find people that fit into this bubble right here, and you will save yourself so much headache. I promise you that niching down, as as for some reason, this is the biggest band-aid that a lot of business owners, when they start to get into this first, need to pull off. Niche down. It will save you so much time, because what you're doing, at least until you're under that $1 million mark, where the game is pretty much just getting more people to see your stuff and increasing the value and hopefully just giving the more easier and simpler process over time. Till you're under that mark, I would encourage you to just focus on one customer, one customer, one outcome, and then one offer, which leads me into the next thing. And we'll talk about this portion in just a second. Now, to recap, defining your customer is going to save you an insane amount of headaches, because you're going to end up doing three key things. You're going to invest less to get more ideal customers who will spend more with your business. Basically, you spend less on marketing, you get better returns. You're going to spend less time just trying to find these people and convince them, and you're going to just stop kind of reinventing the wheel. And the third thing is ultimately you're going to start to narrow down and start to build your first sales script, your first marketing strategy. Everything will become clear, because you're not all of a sudden just focusing on this huge broad category of all these people who might buy your stuff. And instead, you're just focusing on this one person right here, and all the variables will start to go away. What do they want to hear? How long do they want it to take? How much are they willing to spend? This is the person you want to go after. So stop trying to be everything to everyone, and life will become a lot easier. And just refer back to your 4 qualifiers right here to pick a killer customer. Now, the second thing I would say that I see all the time is that you really don't have a defined value. What value do you bring, or what value does your thing bring? So, do you, your thing, I'm going to move this over just so we don't encroach on number 3. So, what value does your thing bring? Think about this. I can't tell you how many times I talk to a business, and a lot of their selling points, or a lot of their unique value that they're trying to bring to market, is just their skill set, and it's just the raw materials. It's like trying to sell a commodity. Imagine if you went to somebody and you said, "I'm selling dirt." Well, you'd probably say, "Why is this dirt better? Theoretically, dirt is outside. I could get it anywhere." So it becomes a commodity, because at that point you're just trying to find the cheapest dirt supplier. Now, your value, if you don't convey that to somebody, it doesn't make sense. So what a lot of people end up doing is they'll do this: service or a product plus price, and that's their main pitch. I'm a landscaper. I cost $100. I'm a law firm. I cost $50 an hour. I'm a CPA. I cost $700 an hour. Or I sell cakes. They're $50 a piece. I sell cars. They're $10,000. That's all you're basically pitching. Now, in reality, the customer base doesn't know why that matters and what it brings. And to fix this, all you need to do is switch to an outcome plus value mindset. Now, what does that mean? Now, let's say, for instance, that you had a code snippet, because this is really common in the tech industry. In reality, a lot of code is just basically merging together widgets that already exist. A lot of times, most tech apps aren't radically different. There's usually a place to store customer information, a place to take that customer's payment information, a nice pretty little dashboard that you can access from the internet, all that. And when tech companies do this, they realize that the value is not in just having that code for code's sake. They have to take all of these pieces of code here, the ones and zeros, and this is the same thing that you're doing right now. Your code, so to speak, is what you do, all the extra tidbits, and they have to go find somebody who can benefit from that code. So if you just simply selling this block of what you're doing right now, your product or service, as essentially the only pitch to somebody, then you're going to be compared to the competition. Somebody could theoretically say, "I'll find a cheaper version of what you do," because they do the same thing. Now, more often than not, what happens is your local business, let's just say this is you, and this is your office or your storefront, goes out and they get these customers who hopefully visit your stuff, maybe your website, maybe your physical brick and mortar, something that they're interacting with, and hopefully they take action and they actually get into your pipeline, they book a call, maybe they get close to buying it, but they just don't bite. And I'll tell you why that is because the value is in this person's head. This person, the customer, make this a little bigger, this person controls the narrative of what they want. And what you guys often try and do, and I hope that you're going to realize why this is such a big deal, is that you'll often lean on this. You'll say, well, my service is good. I have all these products and I have all of this stuff underneath it and I use all these tools. This person is not you. This is why when people say like, hey, why would you sell car repair services to a car repair shop owner? They're not the target demographic. You have to find people who value the car repair service, and you have to actually listen to what they want and throw that back at them. Because if you try and sell car repair services to a car mechanic, they're going to say, no, I can already do all of this, but I want to know more about the wrench you use and the tools and the OBD2 and all this other stuff. It's the same thing with like me, and I'm a little techie. So when I go to the computer store and I look at it and I look at the spec sheet, I know everything about the processor and the storage and the memory and all that. The average consumer does not care. They care about, does it open fast? Does it have good battery life? Does it have a warranty on it? So what you're looking to do is to switch to the outcome and value mindset. So if I came to you and I said, hey, I'll give you a real world example of this. Let's say I had this laptop here and I wanted to sell you this laptop. And I come up to you, and maybe you're watching this and maybe you are into tech, but let's pretend that you're not. And I come to you with this laptop and I say, hey, Mr. Business Owner, you need this laptop. It's got an i9 processor. It's an octa-core with 64 gigabytes of memory and a 512 M.2 SSD, blah, 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 blah. Tech salad. This is what you're pitching right now. You're going to people and telling them all the stuff that you know about in your business, but instead you need to lean onto the outcome and value mindset. Now, the value of this is I'm going to come to the business owner and say like, hey, do you want to get business done faster? Do you want your battery to last longer? And do you want this thing to just be operating no matter where you go? Because I know that let's say I'm trying to sell this to an off-roader. So I might come to them and say, hey, this thing can take a hit. When you're out there on that rugged terrain out in the middle of the desert and there's no plug nearby, you're going to need a laptop with 12-hour battery life that can take some sand and grit into it. This does all of that. Plus, it even gives you a 5-year manufacturer warranty. Notice how I didn't say anything about the specs, nothing about the service, nothing about the particulars of the product, and nothing about the price. Now, in their head, this off-road person who wants to buy this laptop is going to anchor a price in their head of how much that thing is worth to them. They're going to look at this and go, man, I do want that. That sounds awesome. How much is it? And then they're going to weigh the trade-off between this monetary exchange and this product. This is why people, as an example, will buy a more expensive TV over the cheap Walmart ones. Do you want to hear something crazy? The difference between like a Samsung, for instance, and let's say like, I don't know, the local Walmart brand, like a TCL or some sort of cheap TV, these are the exact same components. There's a company, Samsung actually makes the screens for both of these TVs, yet people will spend, let's say this TV is $300 on sale at Walmart, people will spend $3,000 on the Samsung because it's a higher perceived value. Because the outcome of that is if it breaks in a year and if it breaks in less than a year, I can still go back and get the warranty from them, and it's less likely to break. And I like the fact that Samsung integrates with my phone and it does all this stuff. You don't care about the panel, you don't care about the actual color reproduction, you don't care about just that. You want to see what else is going on in here. So, to recap, if you are selling something and you are solely focused on the service or product and price mindset, it's going to hurt you, because ultimately this puts you in the same bucket as your competition, and you now have to go around and justify why you're better than them. Instead, focus on talking about your stuff in an outcome and value mindset, which instead would be the difference between saying, hey, this is the ingredients that make up the cake, and this is what the cake actually does for you. This is why this is a better cake. So ultimately, all you need to do is to start to think about the ingredients that you do right now. And here's what you can do. You can list out every single feature of your product or service. Put it in a Google Doc, put it in a sheet, do that, and then go back and say, okay, what do these things do? Why do they matter? What is the benefit and what is the outcome of that? If you did that with every single thing that you have, you'd understand why your stuff is better than your competitors, and your customers would come to you. So the third thing is that you are not telling enough people about your stuff. You don't market. Marketing is kind of a requirement for any business to grow. And this is really important, is because if you don't tell people about your stuff and you just launch a website and wait for them to come, or you give out some, just some advice to one person and you don't ask for a referral, or you don't even just put up a A-frame outside of your brick and mortar, nobody will actually be able to find you. It's very hard to start a business, and it's almost impossible to grow it without some form of marketing. This is usually the most common thing, which is usually I see businesses go one route. So let's do our little business representation here. And I usually see them go, 3 different routes. So this is the business, and they're going to go pretty much 3 routes when they want to tell more people about their stuff. In fact, I'm going to make these a little bit longer just so we can exemplify this. So most often than not, there's a few reasons this matters, because number one, you're pretty much going to exhaust your pipeline when you start to do just boots on the ground stuff. Like if you're going to a bunch of networking events, you're just going to run out of people to talk to your stuff about. If you're knocking on doors, you're going to run out of doors to knock on, and it's just horribly inefficient. So often than not, they will typically just do, I would say, classic marketing, which is good that you're at least telling people about your stuff, but it's not efficient. The other thing is they will do zero marketing. So you're just not telling anybody about your stuff. You're not posting content. You're not running ads. You're not creating stuff. You're not just getting the word out. Or they'll often run some sort of ad, but unfortunately the ad doesn't convert. They hired an agency or the freelancer to run Facebook ads and it didn't work. And there's a reason behind this. Not only do you need to also start doing marketing, but you also should have a strategy in place. If you don't have a strategy, this goes straight back to this right here. You need to send your ads and your targeted stuff towards these people. Now, here's what you can do as a business owner. What you want to do is condense down something that's highly compelling about your thing. You want to start to open it up into at least 4 different channels. You can do paid. So a Facebook ad, a Google ad, a Instagram ad. You can do organic. So you can create content about your stuff and you can post it on YouTube, and those YouTube videos will get them to visit your website and buy your thing. You can also do SEO in this case. You can show up higher in search results when people look for this. You can do basically refer, or I should say, nowadays they likely call this something more accurate, which would be affiliate. So you can get other people to market your stuff. So if you know somebody who has already a following, just leverage their following. Pay them a little bit of money to go get you customers, or come up with a commission-based basis. Or you can also just do traditional, which isn't bad depending on your particular business. This is going to be things like leaflets, flyers, knocking on doors, putting out an A-frame, handing out business cards. I typically recommend that you also do all of them at once to some degree, but more importantly, before you even get to this, just as I alluded to earlier, you do need a strategy. So you want to take your ideal customer here and you want to paste them into here. And what you're going to try and do is basically follow this funnel. And if you haven't seen this, you can watch my last video, which is Websites Don't Get Leads, How to Build a Sales Funnel. It explains more about this. But what you're looking to do is target 3 segments of basically people. And the cold is going to be people who haven't heard of your stuff. They don't know you exist. They have a problem, but they don't know how to solve it. Warm is going to be people who are comparing you between competitors more than likely. They're just saying like, okay, well, maybe this will work, maybe this won't work. And then hot is really what most people are going after, which is like, I hope this person can afford my thing. They want to buy it. They're ready to buy it. And most businesses pretty much just ignore the top 2 segments. But cold and warm are really where you're probably missing out on. And I just wrote these here to exemplify this, which is when you are doing cold, all you're doing is educating them. You need them to connect the dots in your marketing strategy to see why this thing matters. They might not be ready to buy it, but at least if you can give something to them that helps them understand why they should buy it, that's important. Warm is going to be addressing those objections. So what questions do they have about how your thing works, how long it takes, is it expensive, what does it look like, what if it fails? This is just addressing those objections. And then hot is going to be compiling your offer. And we'll talk about offer later because this is a really important factor of this. So what you want to do is start to formulate a marketing strategy around this. If you don't market, then people will never find your stuff. It's like, I see this all the time, especially with digital outlets, where people will spend, tens of thousands of dollars on some sort of website and it looks incredible. It's got all these animations, it's got all these buttons. And then, your website just looks so cool and you're so ready to launch it and it does nothing. That's because this is the equivalent of opening up a restaurant in the middle of the desert. Nobody's going to happen upon your website. You actually have to take people and push them into some sort of journey, which, just like I said, this could be a sales funnel. This could be handing a business card with a QR code. This could be them watching a video. This could be an affiliate taking the recommendation and having them visit somewhere. But what you're ultimately looking to do and why this is so important, this is the last note about marketing I will say, is almost everybody thinks that running ads is the secret. It's not. What you want to do is just focus on the metric of basically the idea that you want to get the most amount of customers, let me rewrite this real quick. You want to get the highest amount of customers for the least amount of time and money. That's all you're caring about with marketing. And that might mean one of these outlets, that might mean Facebook ads, that might mean SEO, that might just mean traditional marketing. This is what you want to focus on above all else. What lever could you pull in your marketing that would get you the most amount of qualified customers for the least amount of time and money? For instance, and this is where you can get a little creative, let's say that it might not be running Facebook ads, but let's say that there's a seminar on people who are, looking at dog care, and you have a dog care service or you have a dog hotel. Well, you might be able to run ads and target all these people in your local area, but if you can just focus on getting in front of 500 people who are having issues with caring for their dog, and you can say, hey, I have a dog hotel that also has a dog training program. Just for showing up to this seminar, I'll give you 10% off. You just now found 500 pre-qualified leads for the least amount of time and effort. But it might also be the reverse. There might also be people who are searching for this thing in secret. They're not exactly going out and congregating in a big communal atmosphere. So maybe you do have to run Facebook paid ads that gets people into there. Start to think about what you could do to get the most amount of customers for the least amount of time and money. And this leads us to the fourth thing, which is that you don't have an offer. No offer. And this kind of relates to number 2, but the value is that ultimately is something that you're looking at from the customer's perspective. The offer is the execution of number 2, which is, now that I know what they want, how do I get them to understand? So when you look at your service, price, and outcome, and this is just you talking about it and maybe communicating on it on your website or your social, this is the ultimate end where they start to go from here, which is the cold traffic. You've educated them about your problem, to warm. Now they're looking at competitors and why this thing, saying in their mind why it won't work for them, and you're just helping them understand more about why it will. And then ultimately you guys get down to the bottom here. This is why this hurts your business so much, is because when people get to this stage, let's assume for a second that you don't do any of these. And if you just focused on number 4, when they get to that stage where you're eating lunch with them or they're in your Zoom call or just handshake and you're ready to sell them on it, the problem is, and I hear this a lot, where it's like, yeah, I can get them to talk about my stuff, but they won't buy my stuff. It's almost always down to here if you already have hot traffic. If you have people who are getting into your pipeline and they're primed and ready to buy, and then they get into that and they go, I don't really know what this thing is, then of course they're going to go somewhere else. So there's a way that you can actually fix this. Instead of saying, basically what we want to do is avoid two things. We do not want to sell a job title. This is something that so many business owners do. Do not sell your job title. Your job title does not matter at all. You can call yourself a founder, a CEO, an entrepreneur, a lawyer, a landscaper, a CPA, whatever. It does not matter. All that matters is what you can do for them. What can you do and how long and why and where and when, and so on and so on. In fact, I'm just going to get rid of this because let's say, I'm going to run through an example. Let's say that I wanted to buy your thing. Could be $100, could be $1,000, could be $10,000. And there's a million questions running through my head. Have you noticed that when you go to Amazon's website, that all of those questions are typically addressed? It's typically, and this is why they're a $1 trillion company, because if I go to your website and I see your product, let's say you're selling something, and I want to buy your $10,000, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is your product that you're trying to sell me. Well, how long does it take to ship? Is there a warranty on it? What's the return policy? Are there reviews? How much, how can I finance it? What is it made of? Is it organic? Is it black? Is it white? Is it up? Is it down? Too many questions. The offer is taking what this person wants and basically reducing the risk and increasing the value. And this is really important because if you can do this within a structured offer, then this is all you're doing is just reaching this checklist to where you say, all right, I went from here, and now all I need to do is to hit them with the offer. And that's it. You just infinitely repeat this cycle, regardless of whether or not it's a product or service. And the best part is you can change this up as time goes on because the offer is literally just how you're framing your product or service within typically a period of time, within a location, within a metric that just could arbitrarily pulled out. If I'm selling weight loss, I could have a summer beach body special, which means half off for the first 10 customers that show up. So there's usually 5 things that you could do to improve your offer. Time, I would say urgent, limited. You could do, let's see, time, urgency, limited. You could do referral as well, or actually, I'm sorry, result. And you could do probably another one that would be good would also be to have like maybe a referral program in there, or actually, I'm sorry, the biggest one that I'm missing is the, I call this reverse Uno, but you've probably heard it referred to as the guarantee. Now, check this out. Time, how long? So, how long? Urgency, let's say for like when? Limited, so how much? And then let's say result, what do I get? And then reverse Uno is, I call this my even if or your guarantee. So let's say I'm a personal trainer, and I'll create a version of this right now. Most people would say, all right, this is me, I'm a personal trainer, and I know all these people want weight loss and nutrition, and they could really use my service, and that's so cool. And I go to this local networking event and I talk about it. I say, man, I'm a personal trainer. Does anybody need a personal trainer? And crickets, nobody cares. Or you say, hey, you know what? Who wants to lose 10 pounds in 30 days? I have this program. You're going to get a complete nutrition guide. You're going to get a gear list. You're also going to join a community of other people going on this weight loss journey. You're also going to be able to bring along a friend and get 10% off for each person you bring along this class. And the best part is, if you don't lose the weight, I will just keep working for free until you do. 10 pounds in 30 days. Oh, also, I should have added, there's only 10 slots in the class available. and this offer is only good until next week. So how long? So 30 days. Urgency, so within the next 2 weeks you have to take advantage of it. Limited, there's only 10 slots. Result, you're going to lose 10 pounds. And reverse Uno, even if you do not lose the weight, I'll keep working for free until you do. That is a much more compelling offer than just simply marketing your job title. So think about all the stuff you can do to decrease risk and increase value. Now to recap, offer is just the quantified version of likely what you're already doing behind the scenes, but in a way that makes it seem like it is a better, more enticing, more valuable product or service that you're bringing to the market. Refine your offer and people will ultimately want to buy it. The conversion rates will go up. People will understand it easier. So what you can do is map out everything you're doing, map out every component of your product or service on a list somewhere, and then start to figure out, okay, what can I remix or what can I change within these parameters to make my stuff better? Start with one of the 5 basics: time, how long, urgency, when, limited, how many do you have of it, result, what result do I get, and reverse Uno. Even if you don't XYZ, all ABC. Last one, and this one is a very big one, not making enough. I should say probably not making would be more accurate to say that you're not charging enough. Not charging enough. And this plays off of the last one, which is if you refine your offer, you'll be able to charge more money. But this also is twofold. So there's 2 components of this, and that is that one of these buckets, let's just put this in a rectangle right here, is that I call this the VEM, which is the value extraction method. And we'll explain this in just a second. And this one is just literally how much you're charging. And the reality is that every single customer that comes through your door and buys your thing, there's a couple ways that you can actually leverage that interaction, even if they don't buy. The value extraction method comes down to what I call the 3 R's. Let's say that they don't buy your thing, or let's say that they're not ready to buy it. You can actually use the 3 R's for very, this is the value extraction method, so you're taking in this customer and getting more value out of this interaction. You can do revamp, you can do refer, or you can even do a review, and if you get all 3 of them at once, that's awesome. So this customer, ask how they found you. What could we be doing better? Or I should say lead. Ask how they found you. What could you be doing better? What dissuaded you from buying this thing? Do you know anybody else who has this problem? If this conversation was valuable, could you leave us a 5-star Yelp, Facebook, Google review? That is one way you can get more value because you're not charging enough, because later down the line, they're still going to have a problem, and then you can actually give away value back to them during this interaction to then get them to buy your thing. But what we really want to talk about, and I like to include this because so many people miss that opportunity, because if you do this right now, you wouldn't really be worrying as much about charging enough, because this customer would still be getting you more reviews, which would be getting you more customers, or they'll just flat out refer you, or you'll get enough data to say like, oh, okay, maybe it is too cheap. Maybe it is, maybe it didn't make sense to them, because this will fix your problem of being able to charge more or get more people into your stuff. This problem, the most basic one, is just you're not charging enough. And by that, I mean you ultimately have 2 key issues. You need to up your rates, and you need to get customers to spend more over a longer period of time with you. Now, this is really going to be the part that people honestly struggle with. I'm going to actually erase this because I think this will be better conveyed if I explain it in the context of big business. So big businesses, let's say you have a big business here that's making a ton of money and getting a ton of customers and just everybody's buying their stuff. Big biz. Do you want to know what this business does differently than most small businesses? That is that they're not just focused on the short game, which is getting more customers. Every business wants more customers. Every business wants more sales. But you know what's funny? This is the hardest thing to do. It is much harder to acquire a new customer, convince them you're worth buying from, and then get them to buy something. It is way, actually I'm going to just put a little X here before I talk about this. It is way easier to get a customer who's already bought your thing to buy more things. So we call this they call it a sales ladder, but it's kind of a stepping stone to buying the next thing. And this is why this is so important. I'm going to fix this person's arms. Is that the reason this is so important is because your customers that have already bought from you, they know you, they trust you, and they probably have more problems. You want to hear a crazy statistic that illustrates this? The local coffee shop, so this is our coffee mug with our steaming coffee jug of Mo, or cup of Joe. And the local coffee shop actually makes about, let's say, usually around $1,500 per customer. That means that over the period of time when this guy comes into this business and maybe they visit every once in a while and buy a cup of coffee and maybe a croissant and maybe one of those little rinky-dink breakfast sandwiches, that's how much they're going to spend over a period of about, let's say, 2 to 3 years. Yet big businesses realize that they can get this person to keep buying more stuff, and that will give them more value, and that will earn more trust, and they will be in this emotional cycle of buying. Do you know how much Starbucks makes per customer? $15,000. Can you imagine what a customer, or I guess what it would do to your business if every customer spent an extra $100 with you, $200, $300? This is the metric that I alluded to earlier, which is the LTV. Your LTV, or your lifetime value, is what you want to be focusing on. And first of all, you're not charging enough. And I'm going to even addendum this because we're going down a different path here. You're probably also not making enough, because if you were making enough, you'd also be having enough customers to come into your pipeline to build this system of self-sustainability. So the LTV, to just elaborate, that's the amount you're getting these customers to spend over a longer period of time. Let's break this example down. Well, let's say I offered weight loss as a service. I know I like to use that one a lot, but I like it because it's fairly universal and because I think it challenges people's notions of just doing it for free. The reality is that a lot of these companies, if I were to sell you a weight loss program, there's going to be so many other problems within there. This is the reason, like, let's say I'm Nike, and instead of just getting you to buy a $10,000 workout program, which would be outrageous, it starts small. I get you to buy a shirt, and then I get you to buy the app on your phone to count calories and track your nutrients as you're going through this. And then you buy a yoga mat, which suddenly you need running shoes, which suddenly you realize that, wow, a Nike membership would be cool. I'll join the Nike Elite Club, which is only $20 a month. And then all of a sudden they invite you to an event, which is $100 per ticket for a head. And suddenly you've actually spent 5 to 10 grand with Nike over the period of 5 to 10 years. They're playing the long game. And you're probably not just only charging enough, but you're not making enough because you're not offering enough things after it. You don't have enough, and realistically, this comes down to 4 key things, or 3 key things. You want more upsells. I'm going to erase this LTV here. You want to have more upsells, which are better versions of the thing, or slightly more premium, or just enhanced versions. It could be a whole product altogether. You're going to want to have cross sells, and you're going to want to have down sells as well. These are the metrics that you can add into any path to get people to spend more over a longer period of time. I'll give you a real world example. McDonald's does not really make a lot of money on, let's say, a burger. But what they do make money on is the fact that and actually they prove this scientifically, when you go in there and you see the big touchscreen kiosk where you can order, they make way more doing that than they do with a person, because the layout and structure of them is carefully coded to get you to buy more than you typically would. Sometimes people will even use what's called price anchoring, where you have a cheap version, a version that's slightly less expensive than the most expensive one, and then the most expensive one. So naturally you gravitate towards buying the most premium product. McDonald's does this as an example. Or the most common one, would you like fries with that? Would you like to supersize that? Would you like to take that small Coke to a large Coke? Would you like to download the app, get rewards points, which then inevitably gets you to buy more stuff? So To fix this, what you need to think about is actually map out your whole sales process. When they buy the first thing from you, what's the next thing you want them to buy? Or if they're not ready to buy the main thing, what's the thing that you can buy that's slightly cheaper of that? Or if they buy the main thing, what are the side upgrades that you could get with that? And if we just wanted to map this out, just like using the McDonald's analogy, using our upsells, downsells, cross sells, you want them to buy the Big Mac, which is your burger, but then what is your drink? What is your fries? What's your double Big Mac? And then what's the thing after they bought the meal that's your app or, your email list or your community or something that you can also do. So all of this makes you probably barely anything. It might make you the most in your core offer, but these are literally just extra profit tacked on top. And this is why, I'll tell you why actually this is so important, because eventually you're actually going to run out of people in your neighborhood. You just can't get people to buy in your city. You can't get people to buy in your area. Enough people have gotten the thing, so you need to get people to keep buying. If you think about it like an iPhone or Netflix, there's so many people who have an iPhone. Eventually, they reach a point where you can't get enough Android users to switch over to iPhone or vice versa. So then Apple has to introduce iCloud and Apple Care and earbuds and cases and accessories, all this stuff so that the single Apple user who is now like a fan for life and worries about his phone cracking can buy Apple Care, can buy a premium case, can buy a car charger, so that that person who went from spending $800 on the base to your iPhone has now spent $5,000 after all is said and done over the years of subscribing to things, buying new accessories, and all that. You will just run out of people to sell your thing to in your area, and you need to figure out how to get more of those people to buy them. So again, think about it like a McDonald's meal. What is your Big Mac that you want everybody to buy? What are the things you can add on it? What are the things what's the lower version? The value dollar cheeseburger? What are the fries and drink that you can include with it? So, I did promise you a bonus at the end of this video. If you do click on the link in the description, you'll actually be able to download a cheat sheet that allows you to do this in record time using AI. That way you can fast track the whole process. It's super simple. Just copy that prompt in, follow the steps, and you'll be able to get a basic structure of this that you can leverage. Now, don't just copy one-to-one what it says. Actually paste it somewhere, look at it, do your research, and you'll be golden. Now, I do put out a video like this once a week. If this was valuable, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button, because I want to help other business owners just like you grow who are struggling right now. Life is getting so hard, and I put out these videos because I was in the same boat as you, and I want you to win. But that's all I got for you today. Until then, I'll see you next time.